simmered tripes. That's what we're gonna do today. But let me tie my hair first. Clean. So, what do you need to do simmered tripes? You need tripes, veal feet. In this case, I only have 1/2. I need tomatoes. I need a bouquet garni, which are all the vegetables over here. And then I have celery, leeks, carrots, garlic, onions, shallots, and chives. I believe that's all I want. Oh, and a broth. So this is broth that I made last time. This one is from an older batch where I had a bit more meat. And this one is from the batch that I made in the last video. So you want a good amount of gelatin. And you want a good, this one's doesn't have too much body because I didn't have too many things with nice gelatin. This one has good gelatin. But this one has more flavor. I actually forgot a few things. So I also want some guanciale with the skin, ideally. Lots of black pepper on it. Beautiful piece of guanciale. And something else I forgot is I'm gonna use white wine for this. And I have a bunch of different white wines that I'm just gonna mix because they're all leftover white wines I don't really care about. So here are my white wines. One of them is a Pinot Blanc and the other one's a Pinot Grigio. So we're gonna have a bit of Italian and we're gonna have a bit of Alsace region wine. Anyway, the kind of take of this dish I'm doing, the simmered tripes, I guess it's like French Italian style, so you could say it's like southern French, like Nice or something. So why am I making a tripe dish? Well, the tripe dish is because tripes are something that you know, if you kill a cow, you have a bunch of tripes because they have many stomachs, and all their stomachs have an inner lining that you can process and eat. So this dish can be made with any kind of tripe, but I will specifically be using honeycomb tripe, so I'm going to show you later. But honeycomb tripe has, well, you know, kind of like a honeycomb-like texture. But first of all, I'm just going to process the guanciale real quick. So I just want to remove, you can see here, I'm just going to go along the upper layer and do my best to remove the skin, because we're going to add the skin, but we're going to want to remove it. And the skin is really stiff because it's all dry, obviously. So, you know, we're just doing our best, and we'll clean up anyways. I'm just looking at what I'm doing a little bit. So I didn't do the best job, but then you can just kind of go like that. So you might hear outside in this video. The reason for that is I have my window open, and the reason I have my window open is because it's kind of hot these days, and I kind of want to feel the fresh air. Coast likes the fact that the window's open, so that's also nice. So I'm gonna dice my pancetta, but don't want to dice it on here because it's gonna be oily forever. So I'm gonna get another cutting board. This is my meat cutting board. So the skin, I'm keeping it. I'm gonna put it in because it has a lot of flavor. So I'm gonna put it with my mirepoix for now. The skin, I'm just gonna cut into small pieces. Not the skin, but the fat and the meat. Just gonna cut into small pieces that I'm gonna render down in a little bit of olive oil. So tripes, like I said, inner lining of the cow's stomach. When you kill a cow, you will end up having a lot of tripe. So back in the day, a lot of people ate tripe. It wasn't necessarily the most appetizing thing to eat, and I can understand, you know, it's how do I say this? It's very stinky. In this case, the tripe is not stinky because my butcher cleaned it very thoroughly, and I myself then really cleaned it also, like with running water, vinegar, and everything, and now it has absolutely no smell. So that's pretty much what I want. So right now basically it's just a network of delicious proteins and things that are good for you, very lean, and it doesn't have any stink to it. This I'm basically guessing that by the time I'm done simmering, because it's gonna simmer for a very long time, it'll be basically melt into the dish. And since tripe is so lean, you want to incorporate fat somehow. The way I'm doing this is going to be with guanciale and with veal feet. If you don't have guanciale, you can use bacon, but it'll taste smoky, so keep that in mind. You can use lardon, you can use salt pork, you can use any kind of fatty meat, fatty savory meat that you want. I'm using guanciale because that is what I enjoy, and that's what I have. I'm just gonna put some oil at the bottom of my Dutch oven, just not too much, and I'm gonna add my guanciale. I'm gonna bring it up to heat. We want to start from a cold heat, but I'll show you as we go. I should mention I have my oven preheated to 300 Fahrenheit, which is approximately 150 Celsius. So this is what we're gonna our guanciale in the pan. So I want to show you the tripe. The tripe I've been keeping in cold water after I rinsed it a bunch, but this is what tripe looks like. And as you can see, it has a cool honeycomb-like texture. This is a honeycomb tripe. I find that honeycomb tripe is the one I tend to prefer. Tripe tends to be dirty, it tends to be stinky. This one's very, very nice. It's very, very white. It has no smell whatsoever. Yeah, so I think it's going to be good for our applications. I'm just kind of cleaning it up because here it has a little bit of kind of membrane, but you don't have to clean it up too much. So if your butcher did a good job cleaning it, you won't have to clean it too much. And I'm not going to blanch it or simmer it because in this case, it's already pretty nice looking. So I'm just going to cut the tripe into small strips, and I'll get back to you when I'm done cutting the tripes, and I'll show you the next step. So check this out. This is like the best example of the honeycomb tripe. So the way I've been cutting it, you know, it's pretty simple. Right now there's a lot of water because of course I kept it in water, but basically I cut it into pieces that are about this big or half. And I have a bit of a mix of both, so I have a mix of like thin pieces and I have a mix of like thicker kind of cube, more square or like cube pieces. Because I like the difference in texture when you eat this. I like the So you just go ahead and cut your tripe. So this dish, it's kind of inspired by tripes that I've had in the city before. There's not many restaurants that do it, but one restaurant I like does them really well, and I've never had them. You know, I've never tried recreating them, but this is kind of my attempt at recreating them, and it's a bit inspired by just kind of tripes I've seen all over the internet and old cookbooks. So yeah, this is really like I guess you could say what this is most inspired by for me is like a mixture between like tripe niçoise, which is a tripes done the Nice style in France, and the tripa à la romana, which is the a kind of Italian simmered tripe. They both use tomatoes. They both use a lot of similar aromatics. The niçoise style, I think the Italians cook it a little bit shorter of a time, so it's less stew-like. And the other thing is that the Italians will serve it with mint, whereas I will not serve it with mint. and I think it's more tomatoey for the Italians, whereas for the French it's kind of meatier, and they use tomatoes kind of just to develop the flavor a little bit more. And the French version has veal feet to develop a lot of gelatin in the sauce, because veal feet are like a real gelatin bomb. Well, any feet are a gelatin bomb, but veal feet are the most. Veal have a lot of gelatin, a lot of collagen because they're young. And yeah, the tripes here, that's like I said, it's a kind of tripe called the Honeycomb Tripe, and there's two other kinds. There's the Book Tripe, which is kind of like a flat leaf with a lot of small leaves that you can kind of open up like a book with pages. And there's the, I think it's just Flat Tripe, Book Tripe, and Honeycomb Tripe, if I'm not mistaken. And the cow has 4 stomachs, so there are 4 kinds of tripes, but 2 of them are similar, I think. Is that why there's only 3 different main kinds of tripe? I'm not too sure. I'm not very familiar with tripe, but I mostly cook with Honeycomb Tripe because I find that it has the best texture and the best kind of flavor to it. The flavor is not too strong, it's not too muted either. I think it's just like an overall good good tripe, you know. Honeycomb Tripe. If you're scared of tripes, I would recommend Honeycomb Tripes, and if you're kind of not so scared of tripes, then I would recommend doing a mix of all the different kinds of tripes, which is usually more easy to find. And if your tripes are stinky, I would recommend boiling them in water with a little bit of vinegar and aromatics, like a bay leaf or something. Personally, like I said, these are really, really clean, so I don't think it'll be necessary for me, but it's something that you might want to consider. Dropped a little bit of water on the floor, but it's okay. So next up, after I've cut all my tripe like this, is my aromatics, my vegetable aromatics. So I'm gonna cut my vegetable aromatics right now, but some of them I'm not gonna cut into very big pieces because I want to remove at the end. So these celeries, I want to remove them at the end. So I'll leave them in half like this. My carrots, I also want to remove near the end. I'm just gonna cut the bits because they're really dirty, and I don't think they're really gnarly. It's not just the dirt. I'm gonna go clean them, but I'm gonna leave them pretty whole. So the carrots, really simple. I'm just gonna cut it in half. Carrots are really tough, even if you have a sharp knife. Carrots I'm gonna cut in half, and then I'm gonna cut in 2 like this. I wanna show you something about carrots in case you don't know. But carrots, when you cut them down the middle like this, you can see, but the outer layer, that's focusing on this, which is good, but the outer layer is where the carrot's sweet, and the inner layer is woody and bitter. So if you want like a really carrot focused dish, you might want to core your carrots, which I know sounds a bit wild if you're not used to it, but it's something if you want to really maximize your carrot flavor. Next up in my aromatics that I want to remove, my guanciale skin. Next up in my aromatics that I kind of want to remove are my dark part of a leek, which I clean because leeks are really dirty. I always say this every time I use leeks in my videos. Then I'm going to try something that I've never done before. So I have sage, I have rosemary, I have a bunch of thyme, more rosemary, I have parsley. I'm also going to add some bay leaves to this, but apparently my bay leaves are new, so I've never opened them. Oh yeah, because I finished my bay leaves in my last video after dropping them on the floor everywhere, I remember. Yeah, if you're keeping track, ouch! If you're keeping track of the beef extended universe, this video takes place after the soup video, which is obvious because I talked about how I made my soup. I'm gonna try something that I've seen before, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm gonna do it this way. Then I'm gonna try to hold them with the green part of the leek. A little bit like a shield, as you can see. Gonna try to hold everything like a piece of clothing. Nothing too crazy. And then they tie it with butcher's twine, but I don't have butcher's twine, so I wanted to see if I could tie it with a piece of chive. Also, you can probably hear people kind of not screaming, but like talking pretty loud outside. Yeah, look at that. It works. So I have my little bouquet garni. It's probably gonna fall apart during the cooking, but it kind of works, which is cool. I'm gonna give it another guy. Look at that. So then for aromatics that I don't mind if they're in or not. Oh, another green pepper leek. So the aromatic that I'm actually gonna cut small because I want them to kind of melt into my sauce. I have all my alliums, as you can see. So I have white onions. I'll show you a way to cut onions. I'll make it so you can see what I'm doing. Like I said, you know, leeks, onions, whatever, but this is, because I want them small, I'll show you. Need to make, like, not hide. Now you can see, sort of. But I'm gonna do incisions. This is the way, you know, people have seen this before. Do incisions. You try to go, not in a straight line. You kind of, well, a straight line, but you want to go like follow the curve of the onion. Then you go through, because onions are big, so you want to go through like this. You want to go through like this. Whoa! Did I cut myself? No, but I almost did. It's the onion that kind of pinched my skin, and I thought I was cutting myself. So always be careful when you do this. And you just kind of cut like this. Now this knife is very sharp. I sharpened it in my other video, which is also part of the, you know, if you pay attention to the Beef Extended Universe, man, that car was loud. If you pay attention to the Beef Extended Universe, you would know that I sharpened my knives recently. Then I, usually when I get to this part, kind of just try to cut small. But you'll make long lines because you're cutting through a long piece of the onion. I mean, this is not the ideal way because I didn't do my lines far enough, and it's just gonna give it a rough job. This is gonna simmer for so long, it doesn't matter too much how big the onion pieces are. We'll do it again. This time we'll go further down our onion, so it won't be a problem. Whoops, I went too far. Tuck, 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 tuck. Pretty simple, and then tuck, 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 tuck. And then this piece looks gnarly, so we're not gonna use it. And then tuck. So that's how I cut onions. If I'm not too fussy, but I still want kind of small pieces. So I kind of realized I had too many onions, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna put some of my my white onion away and use it in the future. No big deal. White onion set aside. Because yeah, it turns out I have a lot of white onion. So next I'm gonna cut my shallots, and I'll show you one way to cut shallots. So shallots has many layers, right? As you can see, it has the many layers. So what you can do is you can remove a layer, lay it flat, and then cut it into super thin strips. As you can see, I have my super thin strips, and then you cut across them. And this is like super fine shallot dice. And then this is, you know, if you want to make a sauce and you really don't, like a pan sauce, let's say, and you really want the shallots to kind of meld into it, but you still want that shallot flavor and you don't want to strain your sauce, this is like ideal because the shallots are basically gonna feel like unnoticed, and this is gonna give a pretty strong kick of shallot too, because the more surface area you have for something, the more I mean, look at this, you know, it's super maybe it'll focus one day, but it's like super hey, focus camera, come on. Anyway, I don't know how to make my camera focus, something I'll have to learn, but yeah, it's like super small, but I don't care too much. I'm gonna cut my shallots into small pieces. Because basically I just know that they're gonna melt, so I'm just kind of going and cutting them super small any way I want. It's a very rustic dish, you know, like yeah, I encourage you, if you want to do this dish, don't be too fussy about it. I'm just being fussy about it because it's my I kind of have a fussy mind in general, but also working in the restaurant industry has made me a little bit fussy about certain things, but it's okay. I don't recommend going up and down unless you have a really sharp knife. If you don't have a really sharp knife, it's better to go forward like this, forward like this, forward like this, forward like this, and using the length of your blade to your advantage. That's the best way. And then, as usual, like I said, you know, you can just cut your shallots like this. That's another way. But basically, yeah, you just want small pieces. Garlic, we're gonna... But you should crush your garlics. But I want them to... Always crush your garlics and then cut them. In this case, I pre-crushed them a little bit, just like gave them a whack with my knife, like release the aromas. That way the garlic is gonna be more pungent, more delicious, more healthy for you. Garlic has a lot of good things for you inside. So just kind of give them a little whack. I'm still cutting my shallots. So I'm gonna want this to melt as well. Next up, leeks. Leeks, you usually will split them in half so you can clean them. In this case, you know, all the layers are separate, but if all your layers were kept in the same shape, you could do the same thing as I always do with my, you could do the same thing you always do and cut them in layers like any other allium. I actually decided I don't want small pieces of leeks in my soup, so I'll just put them with my aromatics that I'm gonna remove. And then garlic, I'm gonna slice really thin, but cutting all these alliums is making me cry, and my eyes hurt a lot actually. And it's weird because I know why. Because when you cut onions and you kind of mess them up, they release lycrator activators, and then you start crying, which is what I'm doing right now. And you know, these are really old onions and really old shallots, so they're more prone to breakage and therefore more prone to making you cry. And if you have a sharp knife, like you rupture less of the cells, so you rupture less of the cells, so you cry less. I never cry at work when I cut onions and stuff like that. Also because it's well ventilated. But here I'm crying right now because I have a bowl full of like really like roughly chopped onions because I've been messing around and trying different ways to cut. But it's not so bad now. So my garlic, I'm just gonna give a quick small piece. Slice like this, let it melt. So you can see lots of you know, European aromatics, mirepoix, kind of classic stuff, bouquet garni, onions, garlic, leeks. Well, basically the bouquet garni and its extended. Hey, Coast, you can't do that. The bouquet garni, its extended universe. Bouquet garni, it's an extended universe. The leeks and the garlic. Not bouquet garni, it's an extended universe. The green part of the leek. Bouquet garni in its extended universe. The chives. Mirepoix in its extended universe. The white part of the leek and the garlic. So basically, I'm doing a pretty like not elaborate, because it's all like, I'm just cutting stuff a little bit. You don't have to cut anything if you don't want to. You could just let everything melt into your sauce and kind of mix it around or strain it or whatever. But in my case, you know, I have specific things in mind. I want the alliums to melt into it. I want the tomatoes to reduce. I want the gelatin to develop because of the veal feet. And I want my tripes to have a specific size. When I eat this dish in restaurants, the sauce is smooth, like mostly smooth. And it's only the tripes kind of swimming in like a really meaty kind of tomatoey sauce. So I figured like there's a lot of things that are probably gonna melt and you won't feel it in the sauce, but at the same time, like in an ideal world, I would have like cheesecloth or something, and I put all my vegetables and all my aromatics in a cheesecloth, and the only thing that I would put in my sauce would be the guanciale, the tomatoes, and the tripe. And then tomatoes would cook down and reduce, and everything else would I would strain, I would discard afterwards. But this time I'm making kind of more home style, so we'll see what we can do. I don't need my knife anymore. Actually, yes, I need my knife for one last thing. And this is gonna be really quick, but I just want to take my veal feet. This is cut in half. I asked my butcher to cut it in half. I'm just gonna score just a little bit into the skin to help release the gelatin. But the skin is really tough, so you gotta be pretty tough with it in return. Turns out cows are pretty strong, which is why leather is such a thing. Anyway, that's about it. The last thing I'm gonna do is that, well, I'm gonna put my knife in the sink, which is not so good practice, but the last thing I wanna do is I'm gonna use my hand blender to, can you even see me? Do I look ridiculous from over here? Oh, you can't even see me, good. I look stupid. I'm gonna use my hand blender, which I've only showcased, I think, in one episode. Hand blender. Tomatoes. And I want like a tomato sauce, but the only tomatoes I have at home are these canned tomatoes that are very nice ones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna blitz this. So it's not spinning. I've been having a few issues with this thing. There we go. Yeah, it's gonna spill everywhere, so what we're gonna do is no, it's okay. I don't like that I kind of spilled tomatoes everywhere, so I'm just gonna do a little thing real quick. I'm gonna collect my tomatoes and put it back. This is the beauty of having a bench scraper. Just have foresight. You know, I'm gonna show all my mistakes, because the only things I skip are the boring, what do you call it? Like boring, monotonous things. But I keep all my mistakes in because I want to show you that even a pro like me makes mistakes. You just want to get this smooth, which is what I did. Because well, you don't have to. You can leave it chunky if you think you would like a chunky tomato sauce. Keep in mind that because it's going to cook over a long period of time, keep in mind that because it's going to cook over a long period of time, what do you call it? Tomatoes are going to break down a lot, but if you don't break them apart beforehand, they'll still have some texture to them, I believe. At least in theory they should. But I like to puree them like this because I want kind of like a smooth-ish sauce. As smooth as possible, because I want to recreate the tripes I've had at restaurants. which tend to have a smooth sauce. Ignore the fact that this is kind of a mess. I'm gonna clean my kitchen and we're gonna start cooking because everything's prepped. I got my tomatoes. Okay, let's do a recap actually. Got my tomatoes. I got my aromatics that I want to remove, which include celery, carrots, leeks, the green and white parts, chives, a bouquet garni. Then I have, well, I'm bleeding after all. I'll go check that out too. I have my alliums that are gonna dissolve into the sauce, shallots, garlic, onions. I have my white wine from 2 different regions because I don't care. I have my broth, and I have my guanciale in a pot of olive oil, as you can see right here. And I have my tripe with my veal feet. So let's give the kitchen a clean. Let's give my finger a little checkup because it's bleeding. And wait, hold on, I have to show you this right in the moment. Coast is he had his head in my my Vitamix box. I don't know if he's gonna go try again. Kels, yeah, that's a box. Yeah, Kels likes to put his head in stuff. He was putting his head in earlier. I gave up. Oh yeah, look at that beautiful angle. You can see really everything. Sorry, I moved it a little bit, but it was a beautiful angle for a second there. Yeah, look at that. So anyway, I'm gonna start heating up my guanciale in the olive oil. Guanciale is really fatty, so it's best to start at a low temp. That way, as it comes up to temp, all the fat renders out and then it starts to fry in its own fat. That's kind of the... Look at my hands. Ooh, it's kind of the idea, you know. Mamma mia. This is a kind of an Italian, a kind of a French tripe. Anyway, I'm not very good at accents. Yeah, that's the idea. Right now we're just gonna bring this up to temp, and once this has sweat a lot of its fat, we'll add the garlic, onions, shallots. Yeah, kind of cook them a little bit, sweat them a little bit, develop some sweetness a little bit. We're gonna add our tripes, kind of get that a little bit cooked as well. And then we're gonna add our tomato sauce. Kind of make sure everything's well incorporated. That's gonna be like the base. Then on top of that, I'll put my aromatics. That way it'll be super easy to remove them afterwards. And then I'll add my wine, I'll add my stock. You don't have to add stock. I've seen versions where they only add wine. I think stock will bring more body, including the veal feet. So I think I want some of that fat in there. I want not that fat. I want some of that stock in there for body and flavor. But also I think I don't just want to put wine personally. I'm sure wine will bring a great depth of flavor to it, but the broth will also bring a great depth of flavor. And the guanciale is going to bring a great depth of flavor. I think a lot of elements are going to bring a great depth of flavor, but I think I do want some stock. And I saw a bunch of versions where they use cider instead, like alcoholic cider. So if you don't have a bunch of white wine, or white wine's expensive, apple cider tends to be like alcoholic cider, because I know Americans, like people from the United States, they call apple cider hard cider, and they call unfiltered apple juice cider. So anyways, I will henceforth refer to as alcoholic apple cider as apple cider, because that's what it is. But basically, if cider is more expensive, and so if cider is less expensive, you can use cider. And I've seen a bunch of people use cider instead of I've seen a lot of people use cider instead of white wine for this. But you do want to bring a little bit of alcohol with you, because alcohol will kind of clean up the gamey taste of the... I'll put this in an even lower heat. The alcohol will remove some of the gamey taste of the tripes. So if you have stinky tripes and you clean them and you still think they're a bit stinky, alcohol is going to help kind of clean that up. Kind of sweating these, frying these a little bit. Smells delicious. The smell of guanciale is really a special thing on its own. Now I'm gonna add my onions. My guanciale is sweating sufficiently, and it's getting transparent and translucent. It's releasing a lot of its fat. I don't necessarily want to fry the guanciale because I don't want hard chunks. I kind of want soft chunks. So I'm gonna help them render, and then they're gonna simmer for a long time. But for now, then we can add our alliums. Sweat those. Also, keep in mind when you salt this, guanciale is very salty, so this is gonna bring some salt to your dish. So for sure, that's something to keep in mind. Like maybe it's better to undersalt and finish with a little bit of salt at the end. But I will add some black pepper. Guanciale has black pepper on the outer skin, but it's always good to have black pepper, especially in a dish like this. I think it's well worth it. There's other ways to have tripe, but this is one way that I like. It's one way that I've never done before, so I'd like to do it in my own kitchen, and this is what this video is about. And maybe it's not the best time of year to do it because it's I'll raise my heat now. Maybe it's not the best time to do it because it's pretty hot these days, but you know, a nice comforting bowl of tripe, it's good any time of year. It's just that preparing it kind of sucks in summer because it's so hot in summer, and in late spring here that you know having to Coast is meowing, and having to you know, cook this down and then simmer it in the oven for a while. It does get quite hot. I'm gonna go check on Coast. Goes. Coast just wanted some attention, so I went to pick him up. And I was like, "Ooh, that." So interested. So if you wanted to make this kind of a chunkier, kind of more textured sauce, I would have diced the carrots and the celery the same size, the leeks too, and I would be sweating everything right now at this stage. But that's not what I want personally, because it's not what I'm looking for in my tripe dish. At the same time, it can't hurt to, you know, I'll deal with my own problems as they arise. But I'll kind of try to saute these a little bit. To develop a little bit of flavor on the leeks, the celery, and the onions. Look at that. Doesn't that look like a beautiful home-style meal already in the making? Right now, this smells like the most beautiful non-chicken stock chicken stock, because the guanciale just adds that. The guanciale just adds like that extra depth of flavor to the mirepoix smells that just kind of takes it over the edge. I'm gonna add our tripe at this stage. Actually, you know what? Can I try to leave it? No, I'm gonna mix it through. I'm gonna live the consequences of my actions once again. Oh shit! There's a big piece of tripe in there. So this is when you learn of the wonders of scissors in the kitchen. Who needs a cutting board when you can just hold your things in your hand and cut with your hands? There we go. So far it just smells really delicious, but my tripes let out a lot of water, so I'm going to try to evaporate that water, and when the water is evaporated, I'll maybe I guess that's why people blanch tripes, but my tripes are really well cleaned, so I didn't bother, I didn't feel like I had to bother blanching them. But I guess blanching does help probably let them let out excess moisture. Alright, so I managed to evaporate all the water. So next step is going to be our tomatoes. And the tomatoes are going to bring a certain acidity with them, but more importantly, they'll also, as they reduce, they'll become sweet and deliciously like meaty, and it's going to be an all-around good time with the tomatoes, I think. I don't often cook with tomatoes actually, but I do love tomatoes. They're one of my favorite ingredients, especially in summer. Like a nice tomatoes are really something special. It's just that, you know, I find that when tomatoes are bad, they're pretty bad. So I tend to eat tomatoes only when they're at their best. So I eat good canned tomatoes, and I eat nice fresh tomatoes when they're in season. I'm gonna add my wine just to clean my tomato can. I add a lot of liquid because I want to let it reduce a lot. That's my broth. Yeah, this is gonna cook for a very long time. So I assume, once again, I've never done it. I assume that therefore you want to add more liquid than you think, because it's going to reduce a lot. Then I'm going to add our veal foot. We're going to add our guanciale skin. We're going to add our bouquet garni. Smells very good. I only ended up using half one of my bottles of wine. I might add a little bit more, like so. And to finish this, add a bit more black pepper, and I'm gonna add some chili flakes, because I've had tripe before and I've had it spicy, and I really liked it spicy. And you know, not too spicy. This is not, you know, Southeast Asian food or Chinese food or things like that. Just a little bit of like here, and here. Just a little bit of like chili flakes. They're gonna infuse, so they're actually gonna end up being a lot stronger than you might think. And I see this a lot in French food too. I'm gonna add a few because this is like kind of French inspired. I'm gonna add a little bit of cloves, just not too much, but cloves help bring kind of like a round meatiness to everything. So now that everything's in its place, except for this one chive. Now everything's in its place, and it's simmering. Whoop! I'm gonna put the lid on. I'm gonna put this in the oven at 300 degrees centigrade I know, 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which is approximately 150 degrees centigrade. And like anything you do with Dutch ovens, there's gonna be some, despite it being like this, there's gonna be some evaporation, and it'll kind of concentrate and reduce and stuff. And we'll check on it every once in a while. So all the recipes I saw, they say, you know, at least like a good 3 hours or so. But all the French recipes I saw, they said like, yeah man, you can go like 6 to 8 hours. So I'm gonna check the time right now because I don't know what time it is. So it's 10 p.m. right now. So this is gonna be ready at like 4 p.m. Or at the earliest, or 6 p.m. 6 a.m. 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. depending on how I go about it.
I ended up letting it go for quite a long time, and the entire surface of the tripes caramelized really well, kind of like when you do a cassoulet or something. And I kind of just mixed it around and redistributed all the delicious kind of browned flavors into my stew. And I'm letting it sit a little bit just to cool down slightly, and then I'm gonna... Sorry, I just woke up. And then I'm gonna start processing it. So I'm gonna try to filter this as best as I can. You know, I'll remove the large pieces of leeks, I'll remove the guanciale skin, I'll remove the, you know, the stuff that doesn't want to redistribute back because it's like too crisped up or like too burnt. And I'm gonna try to just get mostly the sauce and the tripes. I'm not gonna show that process because I think it's gonna be kind of messy, but I really just remove the big chunks that you don't want, and it'll be ready to eat. You know, so you can keep all the little vegetables because at this point they'll probably be really soft, and if you don't want them, you can try to filter it as best you can. This is what my tripes look like at the end, and I'm sure if it cools down significantly, it'll be super gelatinous. We'll take a look later because I'm gonna let it cool down. I always think it's better to let your stews and your soups cool down in their liquid before eating them, because they're always better. People say always better the next day, but it's more so that it's like always better after having cooled down and been reheated, and that's what everybody says about tripes too. At this point, it's pretty thoroughly cleaned, and you know, I removed all the small bones from the veal feet. I removed the veal feet itself, what was left of it. I removed also a bouquet garni, and I removed most of my big vegetable chunks I didn't want to eat. So now all you have is beautiful, succulent, look at that, gelatinous, meaty stock. I've kind of scraped around as much as I could to redistribute everything into there. And you know, your tripe still holds. You can still see, like, if you wanted to focus, but yeah, you still have your chunks of tripe, and they still have some texture to them, as you can see over here. You know, it's like, it still holds, and if I try to crush it, you know, it's still, it doesn't break. Tripes are pretty sturdy like that. So this is the texture you kind of want. At least that's the texture that I've had it. Maybe a bit firmer. Like, I did go more than 8 hours. I went like, went close to 9 or 10 hours, but I would recommend, like, try at 6, see if you like the level of reduction, see if you like the texture of your tripes, and if you want them more tender and you want more reduction, go for 8. But if you find that your tripes have the perfect texture for you, but you don't have enough reduction, then I would strain everything, reduce your liquid, then fold back the tripes in afterwards. Kos, what are you doing? Now it smells good, Kos. All that's left now is really to season to taste. So like add the salt, because I didn't salt this that much because of the guanciale. So add salt, add pepper. Maybe if you think it's missing something, like, this could be really good with nutmeg, add a little bit of nutmeg. But I think like right now it tastes really good. It tastes really concentrated of veal and tomatoes and tripe. And tripes have their very own distinct flavor. But I think all that's gonna miss really is like a good amount of salt, because this is pretty bland right now. The guanciale actually didn't introduce as much salt as I expected it would, but that's fine. That's why I didn't like salt in advance, because as you can see, it reduced quite a bit. Like even though there's a lot of gunk in there, which is mostly the feet, it reduced quite a bit, so it probably would have been too salty if I added salt.
Cool done. Actually, it looks really impressive because yeah, all jellified because of all the gelatin in the tripes and in the veal feet especially. And if you look at it, so, it just holds, and it's really bouncy. It's like a, you know, you can do a terrine with this, which is some people do. So you put in a mold and then you cut into slices and eat the slices like that. It's a pretty cool. But you know, if yours doesn't end up this gelatinous, like don't worry. Just I like mine really gelatinous. That's how I've had it many times. And when you warm it up and the gelatin melts, you know, it's just so succulent when you eat it. You know, like a warm, delicious gelatinous stew, like the best beef stew you've ever had, where it's like it sticks to your lips and it's glossy and it's got a beautiful mouthfeel. That's what you want, you know, with your tripes. At least in my opinion, if you do it in this way.
So, I come to you from, once again, the table. Seriously. As soon as I start talking, there's a cop making a bunch of noise. I'm in my pajamas, I'm relaxing today, but still doesn't mean I can't tell you about tripes. So, I have my two books here. I have on food and cooking, The Science and Lore of the Kitchen, and I have another book called The Forgotten Skills of Cooking. And it's actually really hard to find information about tripes because I guess it's just something that people don't really eat much anymore at all. So in this book, there's a little bit on tripes, but really not much. It says, tripe is the lining of beef stomach, which I've talked about before. The stomach is divided into two parts, and there are three distinct types of tripe. Plain tripe, which comes from the first stomach chamber, which I think I also call a flat tripe. Honeycomb tripe, which comes from the second chamber, and packet tripe, which I think is called, also known as a book tripe, which comes from the far end of the second stomach chamber. Honeycomb tripe is by far the most tender and flavorful, and is my preferred option, according to Darina Allen. And here it says, how to prepare tripe for cooking. Wash the tripe very thoroughly in 3 or 4 changes of barely warm water. Drain and put into a bowl. Sprinkle with 1 tablespoon of salt and juice of a lime, and work the salt and lime well into the tripe, rubbing in between your hands as though you were washing clothes. Leave it to sit for 30 minutes, and then wash again thoroughly in several changes of warm water. So that's how you clean tripe. And according to a lot of French and Italian things I've seen, they also like to rinse it with cold water afterwards and kind of blanch it. And here it just talks about how the traditional way to serve tripe in Cork, which I believe is in Ireland, is with onions and a white sauce, which is definitely an acquired taste. It has its aficionados, but you're more likely to convert the uninitiated with some of the Mediterranean, Indian, or Mexican ways of preparing tripe. In this video, I kind of made like a French, kind of Italian way to do it, so, you know, I did my little Mediterranean thing. So that's what this book has to say about tripes. Really not much, and this, I thought it would have more because it's about the forgotten skills of cooking, but, you know, whatever. And in this book, I have, just have to find where I put my little, I put there. There's really not much on organs in here. It says, offal or organ meats. Animals have muscles because they nourish themselves and other living things and must move around to find them. On other living things and must move around to find them. And they have innards to break down these complex foods and separate the useful building blocks from waste material, to distribute nourishment throughout the body, and to coordinate the body's activities. And then it talks about how, unlike standard meats cut from discrete and largely sterile skeletal muscle, many organ meats carry extraneous matter. Before cooking, they're often trimmed and cleaned, and then blanched or covered with cold water that is slowly brought to a simmer. The slow heating first washes proteins and microbes off the meat, then coagulates them and flows them to the water's surface when they can be skimmed off. And more importantly in this case, blanching also moderates strong odors of the meat surface. And here it talks about the composition of organ meat. And so tripe, for 100 grams, is that what it is? Yeah, here everything I think is relative to, it's like for 100 grams approximately.
tripe is 15% protein and 4% fat, has 95 milligrams of cholesterol, has 2 milligrams of iron and 2 milligrams of folate. So it doesn't have much minerals in it, but it has very high protein to fat ratio and really low cholesterol, so it's very quite healthy. And if you compare it to the other kinds of, if you compare it to standard cuts of meat, standard cuts of meat have 24 to 36% protein to approximately 20% fat in the higher end cases. So really, tripe is a bit lower on the protein scale, but it's very low on the fat scale. So if you want to eat healthy, protein-rich meat, tripes are pretty good in this case. And it has the lowest cholesterol out of any part of the animal. So that's also a very good bonus. So one last thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm talking about it later because my camera died, because it turns out the battery dies really quick. But something else that I wanted to talk about was, other than like what's good about tripe, which I talked about a little bit. The reason once again I'm doing this video is to show that you can turn these scraps, these undesirable things, these leftovers from killing animals. You can do more than just make sausage or animal food with them. You can make really legitimately delicious human food with them. So in this case it's kind of a stew-like application, but there's so many other ways to do tripe. It's just I did the way that I felt inspired by, that I kind of wanted to recreate. And you enjoy it with crusty bread or over rice, or even like with pasta. Though I think the texture of pasta would kind of clash the texture of the stew. But like with nice crusty bread or like a little bit of rice, I think that could go really be really delicious. Maybe a little bit of chili flakes, a little bit of like chili oil to add a little kick. Maybe some grated Parmesan or grated Pecorino, or like a little bit of cheese on there, and it's even more delightful. Really, there's a lot of ways to eat that saucy, meaty, kind of tomatoey, savory stew. And I was afraid that it wouldn't taste like tripe anymore because it's simmered for so long. But the tripe is definitely still very present. You still taste the tripe, and you still have the texture. It's simmered for so long. But really, it's as far as eating scraps goes, there's way worse things you can eat than this stewed tripe. So even Mips agrees. And for the next episode, I'm not too sure yet. I have a few ideas on what undesirable piece of meat I'd like to cook, but we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do another scrap episode for a little bit, because I don't have any scraps at home right now, except for sweetbreads. So maybe I'll do sweetbreads. Sweetbreads are really interesting. So maybe that. But this is just at this point it's just me rambling. But really, don't discount certain pieces of meat just because they look gross or because they come from a weird part of the animal. Like I think if you're gonna kill an animal to eat it, you may as well pay respects to the animal by trying to process and eat everything the animal has to offer to you, because otherwise it would just feel like a waste. It would just feel like disrespect towards these animals that give their lives for us. And I'm not vegetarian or vegan or anything. I eat so much meat, as you can see from my channel. But I try to prepare the meat in a way that I can feel good about, and I try to get meat from nice sources where the stuff is as ethical as a farm can be for farming animal for meat. And part of that respect thing is also that cooking every part of the animal, using the feet, using the bones, using the tripes, using the heart, the kidneys, the liver, using the head, which is an episode I really want to do, using the head and do tête fromagère. But that's in the future. But really, it's about the respect. I find some people might say you're just eating. Like, who cares about respect? But I do. You need a little bit of compassion and you need a little bit of compassion. You need a little bit of respect towards what you eat. Oh, Mips, you're trying to eat me. So anyway, thanks for watching. It really means a lot, and please go cook something for yourself. It doesn't have to be what I showed you today, but at least feed yourself and kind of enjoy what you're eating. And I know I might look like a bum. I'm wearing my pajamas and stuff, but you know, I think it might be worth listening to me sometimes. I'm gonna show you Mibs right before I go. Whoa, she got scared. Sorry, Mibs.